I want to explain to you one book that transformed my life. Now, as you all know, I've read hundreds and hundreds of spiritual texts all throughout the world, particularly in the East and in the Eastern traditions of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. But there was one book, one scripture that really changed my life. And it just completely blew me away. And this was when I was at a young age. So keep in mind, a little young Jason reading all of these scriptures. And I had read scriptures like the Tao Te Ching and the Chuang-Tzu and all this and that. And you know, they have their place. But there was one book that really blew me away and changed the game for me. Now, what is that book? That book is the AVADHUTA GITA. Now, as you all know, I speak about this a lot on the channel. It's one of the scriptures that I speak about the most on the channel, but it is the one that changed the game for me. Now, this is the Swami Chaitananda translation. Now, I love this translation, but the translation I read back when I was younger was by Swami Abhayananda. Now, that's also a beautiful translation as well, but I love this one as well. And just the AVADHUTA GITA just really changed the game for me, because most of us don't think in a type of holistic or non-dual manner, because we're so involved in our own lives that we can't see the big picture. Now, I already had a sort of a philosophical orientation before I read this, but I had not got to that stage, right? Obviously, I knew about the ideas of non-duality and things of this nature, but I hadn't came across a book that really explained it in a way that I could understand when I was at a young age, right? And so keep in mind, I picked this book up and I'm working a dead-end job. And so at lunchtime, I'm going out every lunchtime and I'm reading this scripture. And it just kept flooring me every day, right? It really did just keep flooring me, and it allowed me to be really engaged in a deep inquiry into the nature of my own self, you could say. And so this scripture, the AVADHUTA GITA, is a great scripture that will allow you to understand other Advaita texts and other spiritual teachings at a deeper level. This is what really helped me, was the AVADHUTA GITA. Now, on the desk here, for example, I have the Ribhu Gita, right? So I was reading the Ribhu Gita before I read the AVADHUTA GITA. Now, the Ribhu Gita is a very forceful text, right? It's a really forceful inquiry because it's very repetitive. It's the old stanza format without sort of this poetic aspect of it that you find in the AVADHUTA GITA. But this one is kind of, trying to reinforce that you are Shiva, you are Brahman, over and over and over again. Now, I love this text, but what helped me understand that even more was when I found the AVADHUTA GITA, right? That set things straight. Now, there was one verse in here particular, and I always remember it, and I've spoke about it on the channel before, and it's just one of the verses that absolutely floored me, because I hadn't thought, you're a young person, you don't think about these things, right? You're just trying to get by in the world. And a lot of people say you probably shouldn't come across any of this sort of philosophy too young. You should be 50 plus. Well, that didn't work for me. So the verse was, I was never born and I will never die. Neither do I perform any action, good or bad. I am that pure, attributeless Brahman. How can there be bondage or liberation for me? So when I read that, that was it, right? That verse pretty much changed my life, because just the idea that from the ultimate state, we are not born and we will never die. Now, Dattatreya here says the attributeless Brahman, right? So he's talking about no guna Brahman, so Brahman without gunas, without qualities. And that's who we ultimately are from an Advaita Vedantic perspective. Obviously, we can make philosophical arguments from Kashmir Shaivism's perspective or Vishishta Vaita's perspective, or even a Vijnana Vedanta perspective. But from an Advaita Vedanta perspective, all we truly are and have ever been is the Atman, which is identical with Brahman, right? And so that means that your pure, non-dual nature is all that ever has existed and ever will exist, and is identical with Brahman itself as Nirguna Brahman, right? And so how could you die? How could you be born? How could liberation or bondage have any meaning to you? They can't from that state, right? And for some reason, when I was young, I understood that verse. That's why it really hit home for me. I understood it, and I didn't know why I understood that verse, right? One teacher said to me, oh, it's because, past life karma and stuff like this. And there's always, some sort of explanation of that sort of nature. I don't want to exaggerate that in that way, but I understood what it meant. And, leave a comment below if you understand what it means, right? Like, because I'm always looking for feedback, what people think about these great texts. And, does that ring true to you, that sort of verse? Because when I was young, it really rang true, and it still rings true today, louder than ever, actually, right now. And so I often read the AVADHUTA GITA a few times in a year, because it's a small text. You can sit down in an afternoon and probably bang this one out. And for me, it's just one of the deepest inquiries of all the spiritual traditions and world literature in general. That's why I love it. I just absolutely love it. And it like I said, it was the text that really floored me the most, was this text. And I know a lot of people will say on the channel, I thought, maybe it was a Tao Te Ching, maybe it was a Bhagavad Gita, or, something very generic, but it wasn't. Is it an obscure text? I don't know, but it's not one that's that well known, and it's one that I came across by happenstance, actually, and just read it and just fell in love with it. And I read it again straight away after I read it the first time, right? But it really helped my understanding of the higher teachings of Advaita Vedanta. And it basically transformed my whole life. And that's why we're here all together. And so I've only got nothing but respect for Lord Dattatreya, the AVADHUTA GITA, all of the great masters that I speak about on the channel. And so if there's one book that I could recommend to you all, it would be the AVADHUTA GITA. And please let me know in the comments what you think about this text, or what is your favorite text. Let me know. And so, guys, I've always wanted to tell you what book changed my life, and there it is. So, guys, I hope you're safe and sound, and I'll see you in the next one. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.